What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. So today we're going to be taking a look at my full preseason top 25 college football rankings. I have broken these down kind of more of a team by team basis, ranking by ranking. So I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. So if you kind of want a more in-depth analysis of each and every team, go ahead and check that out. But let's go ahead and get started here. So this is my preseason top 25. So this is, strictly going off of rankings here and kind of my predictions for the season. Now, this is subject to change. I will change this each and every week. I'll put out a new list once we get started into the season later this month. So, week 0, top 25, week 1, top 25, and so on. Also, I have a G5, top 25 each and every week. So, essentially, my G5, group of 5, top 10 for the most part. But preseason top 25 wise, let's go ahead and dive in real quick. Number 25, USC. They've got some roster turnover headed to the Big Ten. So, a few question marks, but you lose Caleb Williams to the draft, heading to the Big Ten. Miller Moss comes in as a replacement. They have improved that defense somewhat in the offseason, so I think USC can get back to having some Lincoln Riley type success as far as what he had at Oklahoma. Number 24, SMU. They kind of move up in classification. All right, so they're moving from the American to the ACC. Normally, that team making a jump from the G5 to the Power 4 wouldn't be in the top 25 yet, but they have a lot coming back from last year's successful season. Also, they have a ton of transfers coming in. That's definitely going to help out this team a lot. They have loaded up in the transfer portal, kind of where I think it matters, in the secondary, and most importantly, on the interior offensive and defensive line. They've got multiple linemen coming over from Oklahoma. I think they're going to be ready to compete in the ACC right away. Number 23, Rutgers, kind of a sleeper pick here. Not in probably anybody's top 25, let alone even close. But the reason I've got them at number 23, number one, go look at their schedule. They're probably going to be higher than 23 at some point in this season because there's really no reason this team can't go undefeated. Looking at their schedule, I know that sounds insane, but they avoid all of the tough teams in the Big Ten that I'll talk about in a little bit. So Rutgers could be in the Big Ten championship. Big reason for that. They've got Kyle Monunga back at running back, leading Big Ten rusher last season. A lot of other guys coming back, few solid pieces coming in the portal. I think Rutgers is kind of going to be a sleeper this year. Watch out for them. Number 22, Louisville. Made the ACC championship last year. They have upgraded this roster in some aspects, but they kind of lose their do-it-all running back in Jawar Jordan. So that's kind of why they're this low. So I've got a few question marks as far as if they can replace his production, but Jeff Brom alone as head coach is enough to get you in the top 25. Number 21, Tennessee. They've got Nico Imalele, if I even said that name right, at quarterback. I think they should be improved from last season. Kind of an outsider's chance at making the college football playoff if all breaks right for them. But they were still solid last year in the SEC, so I think they'll be even better this year. Number 20, Iowa State, top 5 in returning production in the nation. They've got their quarterback back, Rocco Beck. They've got their running back back. They've got their receiver back. They've got their top tight end back. Ton of guys coming back for this team. I think Matt Campbell's team, could realistically win the Big 12 this year. 19, West Virginia. Garrett Greene is back at quarterback. That's the main thing you need to know with them. Garrett Greene, one of probably the top 10 quarterbacks in the nation right now, got Neal Brown off the hot seat last year. They play Penn State early. We'll know a lot about them pretty quick. Number 18, LSU, a lot of question marks here. So we saw, last year, despite all of the first-round NFL talent they had, they still had some limitations. So they lose all that talent to the NFL. What makes them a top 25 team? Number one, Brian Kelly has kind of earned that reputation. But number two, go look at their schedule. I mean, despite what all they have lost, if Garrett Nussmeier can hit, they have arguably the number one offensive line in the country, I would say. If Garrett Nussmeier is successful at quarterback, this team could be a sleeper playoff pick. Number 17, Iowa. I know this is probably high for a lot of people. They're going to be in the top 25 at some point this year, even if their offense sucks again. That defense is good enough for that. But the defense is going to be stout. That's no doubt. All right, so they have a lot of guys coming back defensively. But offensively, quarterback, you've got Cade McNamara finally getting to start. You may remember him from Michigan not too long ago, got replaced by J.J. McCarthy. So Cade McNamara, I think, is an improvement over almost any quarterback that Iowa has had in recent memory. If he can at least be somewhat manageable on offense, this team might be a playoff team. All right, excuse me. Number 16, Florida State. Florida State loses a ton of their roster from last year. It's pretty much a complete roster makeover through the transfer portal. This team is built, led by DJ Uiagalelei, coming back to the ACC from Clemson. I'm curious on this team because, again, it's a talented team, but how will they mesh? Jury's out on that. Number 15, Michigan, probably the biggest question mark team for me in the country this year because they are talented, yes, but they just lost so much from last year. I really don't know what to expect from this team. This team could be a top 10 team. They could be completely out of the top 25. I really don't think there's any in between. Uh, You've got Donovan Edwards replacing Blake Corum. You also lose J.J. McCarthy, Jim Harbaugh, among others. Defense should be good. I think that's kind of a given with what they have coming back. I think their defense will be good. And they'll be able to run the ball. The big question mark for me is Alex Orji at quarterback. He got a lot of run last year in kind of wildcat formations. So we know he can run the ball. We know he's an athletic specimen, but can he throw the ball? If he can throw the ball, yes, they'll be a top 10 team. If not, might not be a top 25 team. Number 14, Utah. Cam Rising is back. Kyle Whittingham is still there as head coach. They're headed to the Big 12. They've got as good of a chance as any to win the Big 12. Cam Rising is good enough to get you a top 15 spot. He's a proven winner time and time again when he's been healthy. He was out last year despite, I don't care what their roster looks like. If they've got Cam Rising in quarterback, they've got a chance. Number 13, NC State. I would say this is probably Dave Doran's most talented team he's had at NC State. Really loaded up in the transfer portal this year, and they were pretty solid anyway. You know, he's always good for 8-9 wins, somewhere in that range. But with what they have coming into the portal, I think this team can win the ACC. The one that sticks out to me is Grayson McCall at quarterback, coming over from Coastal Carolina. He's won a ton of ball games. Back when he was at Coastal with Jamey Chadwell, they were almost unstoppable there. So I'm curious to see how he looks in the ACC. If he looks good, I think NC State could win this conference. Number 12, Miami. Mario Cristobal, similar to Dave Doran, I think this is his most talented team. Whether it's at Oregon, whether it's at Miami, Mario Cristobal has stacked this roster. Last year, despite not being great, they were actually pretty close to being a double-digit win team regardless. And what they have coming into the portal, what they have coming back, they've got the preseason player of the year in the conference coming into the portal, and Cam Ward from Washington State. That combined with Damian Martinez, as well as what they've added defensively in the portal. Right now, I might, you could easily convince me that Miami is the favorite in the ACC. Number 11, Notre Dame. This team's talented, as always. The big question mark here is health at quarterback. You bring Riley Leonard in from Duke, and last year when he was healthy at Duke at quarterback, they were a top 15 team. But the problem with him is he's very injury prone. So if he can stay healthy, Notre Dame will make the playoff, no problem, I think. But if not, you may start hearing some rumblings about, is Marcus Freeman the guy at Notre Dame if they miss the playoff? Number 10, Oklahoma State. I would say that right now, this is the best team in the Big 12. They are like top 10 in returning production last year from last season in the country. They've got Alan Bowman back at quarterback. They've got their two receivers back. Most importantly, they've got their running back, Ollie Gordon, Heisman candidate, Doak Walker candidate. Made the Big 12 championship last year despite having a very up and down year. These guys are a year older. They're experienced now. They've made the championship. Yes, it didn't go well, but they made the championship regardless. With Texas and Oklahoma out the door, I think this is the team to beat in the Big 12. Number 9, Clemson. Big question mark here as well, because I'll admit last preseason, I had them in my college football playoff. That didn't happen. They haven't really adapted, talking about Dabo in particular, to this new climate in college football that is a transfer portal. They lose guys. They don't replenish them and bring them back in, though. Cade Klubnik's been the starter there for multiple years now. Can this team finally get over the hump? The ACC's up for grabs. Can they win it? I think they definitely can. Number 8, Oregon. Also, one thing before I forget about Clemson, they do play Georgia week 1, so we're going to know pretty early just how good this team is. Number 8, Oregon. I think this might be low for a lot of people, because I would say in most people's top 25, Oregon's definitely top 5, if not top 3. And this is pretty high for me. All right, I'm a known Oregon skeptic. They lose some pieces from last year. Bo Nix is kind of the main one there. They bring in Dillon Gabriel from Oklahoma. I don't think that's too much of a downgrade. It may even be an upgrade physically. Now, Bo Nix was really good in that offense, so, you could argue that. But I think Dillon Gabriel will be fine. They won't miss a beat there. They've also improved this defense through the portal. That defense is stacked right now. The big question mark for me there with them is moving to a new conference, moving to a tougher conference from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. Can they kind of go with the week in and week out grind that is the Big Ten? Are they going to lose to, even I would say mediocre teams in the Big Ten are a lot better than the mediocre teams in the Pac-12. So you've got a much slimmer margin for error when it comes to not being prepared that week. Number 7, Ole Miss, probably a team that benefits the most from playoff expansion, as well as a team we'll talk about here in a second. But Lane Kiffin, multiple double-digit win seasons in a row, and he's pushed in the cards this season. I think they definitely are a playoff team first off. You got Jaxson Dart back. You do lose Quinshon Judkins, but with what they have coming in on defense, that defensive line in particular, they're going to be nasty up front. Number 6, Missouri. All right, they do lose Cody Schrader from last year. Kind of a sneaky good year last year. You may not just think, hey, Missouri had a good year last year, but they did. They would have been in the playoff if it would have already been 12 teams last year. They've got their quarterback back, Brady Cook. They've got, you could argue the top receiver in the country, Luther Burden. He's at least top 5. They've got him back as well. Like I said, they lose Cody Schrader at running back. He kind of did a lot for them last year, but they replace him with Marcus Carroll from Georgia State. He was top 10 in production last year, so I don't think they miss a beat there. Missouri will be in the playoff. Number 5, Texas. They've got not Arch Manning. They do have Arch Manning, but that's not where I was going. They've got Quinn Ewers back, but they lose a lot of the skill guys. It just came out today that C.J. Baxter, who was going to be their starting running back, is out for the year. Messed up his knee in fall camp today. But they've got, kind of some changing of the guard at receiver. They bring in some talent, but can they replace Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, J.T. Sanders' production? That's kind of the question mark there. Their defense is also going to have to play better as they move to the SEC. But with their schedule, they should be able to make the playoff regardless because they're still talented enough. And Quinn Ewers is good enough. But can those guys replicate that production? Can they beat Michigan? They do play Michigan in the non-con, but their SEC schedule is manageable. Number 4, Penn State. So this is going to be high for a lot of people, but I'm a big believer in Penn State this year. I think they have arguably the best defense in the country this season. And Drew Aller is back for another year. They've been this close. All right, they are probably, like I said, with Ole Miss, the team that benefits the most from playoff expansion. I think it is Penn State because you backtrack a couple years ago, they were the 5th best team in the country. They lost to Ohio State. They lost to Michigan. Both those teams made the playoff. Penn State's right there. That's as close as it gets. Last year, they were within single digits, I believe, with both those teams, at least within 10 points of Ohio State and Michigan. They've got a lot of guys coming back. They have improved somewhat, like as far as the pieces they needed to replace. They brought in through the portal. I think Penn State takes the leap this year. I think they make the playoff. Number 3, Alabama. All right, so admittedly here, losing Saban, bringing in Kalen DeBoer, there's going to be some questions. This roster is talented, though. They made the playoff last year despite being not very talented besides Jalen Milroe. They do have Milroe back. I think that gives you the best player on the field at all times. Not saying he's the best quarterback, but he is the best athlete on the field. Last year, their offensive line sucked. Kalen DeBoer has shored up that offensive line, bringing in some Washington dudes through the portal. The question for me here is, can Kalen DeBoer's offense go well with Jalen Milroe's skill set? Michael Penix kind of threw it a lot more. He's a different build than Penix. Penix is a different build than Jalen Milroe, is what I'm saying here. So, can Milroe improve through there? Can DeBoer kind of alter his offense to fit Milroe's skill set? I think he can. Alabama, number 3. Number 2, Georgia. Similar with Texas here. You've got Carson Beck back. You've got the quarterback back, but you lose a lot of pieces. You lose Lab McConkey. You lose Brock Bowers. But despite that, Kirby's recruited good enough. They should be fine there. They should be the favorite in the SEC. Number 1, Ohio State. I would say this is Ryan Day's most talented team he's had. And they've kind of they've been a victim of this Michigan run the last few years. Michigan's been super talented. Ohio State last year, they had Kyle McCord at quarterback. Is Will Howard a serious improvement? I really don't know yet. The jury's out for me on that one. He offers you a different skill set. Will Howard can run a little bit. But defensively, though, is the key here for me. That team is stacked on defense. All right, you bring in Caleb Downs through the portal, safety from Alabama. You've got Jack Sawyer and JT back at the edge rushers. You've got Travion Henderson at running back. You bring in Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. Excuse me. You've got a Booker back. I think this is the team to beat in the country, but talent-wise, yes, but the jury's out on Ryan Day. A lot of people aren't a fan. We'll see. This is the year to prove it. Michigan's not the Michigan they were the last few years, that's for sure. So he's going to definitely have to win that game. We'll see what happens. But what do you think of my top 25? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Who would you add to the list? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.